Radio Free Skaro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 753. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
We're in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
Because of schedules and craziness and stuff, we're recording this news segment on a Thursday afternoon. What?
I know, it's madness. Madness, I says.
It is a bit madness. So
the news world cannot do anything between now and
nothing happened.
later.
Yeah, at all. If something massive happens, I'm sure we will break in. Perhaps you've already heard about it as a cold open to the show, which is entirely possible. Because the way we do this podcast is we never leave anything open to actually, editable in, just like we can edit in a news break. That's not the way we work here. So we hope this day finds you well. Actually, because of August being quite silly, we've done a bunch of pre-recording already. Not news, of course. That would be ridiculous because that would be like try to anticipate what's going to happen. But there's been a whole bunch of stuff. We recorded a big commentary that we can't even mention what story it is last night as we record this. That's been done. There's another thing in the works that's going to be soon to be recorded. So, yeah. Busy days here at RFS
You also
Studios.
earlier today recorded something else that'll be toward the end of this episode.
That we can talk about. The Game of Rassilon is the Doctor Who role-playing game podcast run by a couple friends of ours, Dan Peck and Riley Silverman, amongst others who are on that. And they are introducing a new companion on the serial that they have they're just about to launch now or soon. And so, yeah, Dan pops by later on in this here podcast to talk all about it. And then after that, as if that's not enough, as if news that is 4 days old isn't enough to whet your appetite for this podcast, we have the first two episodes of our commentary for Battlefield, the first story of season 26, Warren's least worst favorite Sylvester McCoy season.
Yeah, something like that.
Around there. Because you're at least tolerable to one episode and maybe middling to a second, that being Battlefield. But
Yeah, that's about right.
yeah, but maybe not through the
Chris
two
Fenrick's
episodes.
also okay.
That's what I was talking about. That one you find okay, and Battlefield.
Remember
you
the
were
Daleks I quite like.
that was in
yeah.
season 26, but yeah.
Well, I don't care. It's all one big block of McCoy as far as I'm concerned.
It is. I know. Well, perhaps, Warren, this will entice you. I know that you and I share a common dislike of Ghostlight, the second story of season 26. But
And for good reason.
yeah, perhaps what you would enjoy more then is the 21-minute highlight pack of
Nope.
Ghostlight. That
I will dislike 21 minutes of it instead.
that the BBC they've been doing this. They've been putting the little highlights of several different stories on their YouTube channel in the same way that they were doing Children of Earth, as we talked about last week, on their official Torchwood channel. They still have an official Torchwood channel. Bravo to them. That show has been off the air for several years now. So yeah, I haven't watched it. I haven't seen it just says highlights at the very beginning. So it's not like they're trying to have an edited supercut of a story that's already heavily edited to the point of complete incomprehension. But if you want to watch 21 minutes worth of Ghostlight highlights, you could do that. It's kind of like Ghostlight, except Lite. Get it? Because it's
I get it.
I get it.
Not watching it.
You'll notice how much we laughed.
I know. Well, little do you know that when I edit this together, there will be a laugh track on it.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah, if you feel the need for a laugh track, then
Yeah, because
Sure.
it's like the Big Bang Theory. It's like no one laughs in the studio at the jokes, so they have to pump in the actual laugh track over top to simulate the sounds of comedy. The also on the YouTube channel rather by Doctor Who is the Power of the Daleks special edition trailer with I think slightly updated animation from what I can tell. It's all clips from the story. They don't list any of the show off any of the added VAM on it or anything like that. But I'm mildly dismissing this because, of course, like we're gonna get this in North America. Come on, really. You know,
I just like how they're marketing it as brought to you in glorious black and white. That seems
Well, it is glorious.
yeah, as if to dump on the color version that they first came out with.
That they worked on themselves.
Yeah,
that they never wanted in the first place, or never thought to do in the first place.
yeah. It's kind of like, re-releasing a Ted Turner colorized movie from the 1980s. It's now this movie in glorious black and white and not a speck of color on the whole thing. The Power of the Daleks. So I saw Annika Wills tweet about it too, and she's quite pleased by it. So yay for that. Yay for that, you people in the UK who get to pre-order this thing. We could too, I suppose, but it wouldn't necessarily play on our machines because it's always a crapshoot if these Blu-rays are region-free or not. So, and the shipping is incredible. The shipping, I did check Amazon.co.uk, and the shipping is more than the disc itself.
Oh, good God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I looked a little while ago for Macra Faceless Ones. I can't remember if I've had Fury from the Deep in there or not.
Right.
But the shipping was more than the products themselves.
I will say that, I do like to support this televisual show that we enjoy, this Doctor Who. And, there is, I'm trying to think, like, which stories have I paid? Probably all of them. Eventually, I will have paid twice to see them.
Or more.
Or more. The DVDs and then the Blu-ray box sets for the classic
Or even
series.
some VHSs. Because I didn't get much into the VHSs, but I did a little bit.
I bought a few way back in the day, yeah.
I got Ice Warriors and the Years. I got the Years tapes on VHS because those never came out on DVD. So I have those somewhere. And I still have them too, actually. Why haven't I ripped those? Silly me. But you know what? I look at sure, we don't get Macatera on Blu-ray here or Faceless Ones or probably Power of the Daleks. But it'll all come out on the season 4 box set when the time comes. Because they're not going to hold back on unless of course they get the real ones, in which case you can cast your hard-working animated versions into a fiery sun, because I'm watching an actual Doctor Who episode now. So, what are we on to next here?
Hollow Planet.
Oh, the Hollow Planet. The Hollow Planet is a download, print and play game brought to you by the people, the Escape Hunt, who made the Doctor Who escape rooms. It's basically it will be an escape room game that you can play on your own with friends and family, for that matter,
or over a Zoom call.
Over a Zoom call. It's perfect for lockdown and social distancing. So it's not out yet. You can sign up for email updates about it. And I'm sure it's probably not free. And why would it be? People work hard on these things. So that is coming down the pipeline as well. Hopefully before this pandemic lockdown ends, even though we're all being forced back to work at this point, like common capitalist soldiers and stuff like that. But if you do have some free time, you can play this game. So it's a 1-hour experience. So it's not an epic length game like Monopoly or something like that. And it's suitable for 2 to 6 players aged 8+. So yeah, that sounds like fun. What fun to play this little game here with your friends. So news of that one coming down the pipe sometime soon. This weekend is San Diego Comic-Con, but of course there is no San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah, just like there's no Edmonton Expo, which was also finally canceled. Is going to be in September. They officially pulled the plug on that. But there is there's a Comic-Con at home, which just basically is virtual Comic-Con with a whole bunch of different panels. I mean, they
recorded ahead of time, yeah. Which is smart, actually.
Yeah,
apparently,
you don't want to fiddle with dodgy Zoom calls.
No,
on a live
there's just
convention.
it's just a dumb idea. No,
and avoid interminable audience Q&A.
If I may speak freely of a work thing way back in the day, not connected to my current employer, we had a thing where they wanted to show pictures from offices almost as live during this video conference. I'm like, why don't you record this segment ahead of time and play it back? And this guy was like, no, it has to be live. I'm like, oh, okay. You don't know anything about audio or video. Good. Thank you. Good to know. You're an idiot. You must have an MBA. Very helpful.
I know. Because like the Worldcon is happening in like 2 weeks' time. Like that's coming up where they hand out the Hugos and stuff. And because they weren't sure, it's a virtual convention, obviously. And when they're handing out the Hugos, people might be watching. I don't know if they're going to be cutting to people like for their acceptance speeches when they win. So they asked everybody to send in videos of them just in case. And so that's what we did.
That's a very good idea.
I like that because then you don't have to reveal who wins either.
Yeah,
like in advance.
You just have to make sure that you play the right one. That's all. Like you don't want like.
But I mean,
La La
like
Land.
just wanting to do any of that live would be an absolute nightmare. Just a bad idea.
Very bad
for anybody, not just them.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially for like Worldcon where it's in New Zealand, so even if most of the people, and it probably isn't, even if most of the people were like American or whatever, the time zone would make it very awkward. But with people literally all over the world interested in that,
I was going to go.
Then
I decided it was too expensive, and then a disease,
and then this happened,
roiled the world.
Yeah, I don't even know what time of day that's going to happen. I haven't looked that up
too.
Yet.
Like I'm not going to get up whenever that is to watch most of it. So. Yeah. That sounds exhausting. Nothing against Worldcon, but just a cons in general. 3 days worth? I don't know if I can handle that in front of my computer.
It's been, I mean, this is, goodness me, this is the 5th straight year that Uncanny Magazine, of which I am a part, is Hugo finalist. And like all 5 years have been completely different. The first year we watched it live at a barbecue on a Saturday night because it was in Kansas City, I think. And then the next year was in was that the Finland one? No, it's Finland.
Yeah. I was there. I was at the Hugos for that one. Yeah.
And like the live stream crapped out, so we were like looking at Twitter and this, looks like we won.
I probably messaged you at the time too, I'm sure.
You might have done. And the third one was in San Jose, which we were there in person. That was great. And then where I mentioned RFS and the thank you speech, and then last year was I remember babysitting my friend's cat at her home on a Sunday afternoon when it was in Ireland, watching the live stream there. And so this year will be completely different as well. So it's been unique experiences.
And I'm not crap talking Worldcon. Like I looked at the panels. I'm like, these are all pretty good panels, but I'm not going to be able to coordinate this from across the world.
No, and they're charging money for them too. Like the Comic-Con is free, right?
Free.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Comic-Con, although people pay good money to go to it, a lot of it is promotional anyway, right? Like you could say the pop culture stuff is almost all, Mm-hmm. So it makes sense to do it this way. And I'm going to regard San Diego Comic-Con like I always have since I was there for like work, which is I wait until some reputable news organization says what they did and shows me a trailer and I see that then. Like I'm not going to sit there watching a panel.
I know what you mean. But speaking of Comic-Con, the reason we bring this up, because as we release, this will come out on Sunday, of course, and like a couple hours after this episode comes out is when the Doctor Who Time Lord Victorious panel.
It's on Saturday, I keep telling you.
Is it? Oh, it is on Saturday. It will have already happened. It will have already happened. So you'll have missed it. Hope you enjoyed it, everyone. Hasn't happened yet for us. Has already happened for you. Time Lord Victorious, where it's the Titan Entertainment, so it's mostly the comic book version. But James Goss, who's the BBC producer overseeing the whole thing, is also involved in the panel as well, or was involved in the whole panel. So hope you enjoyed that. Hope you will enjoy that if you're hearing this now, which is just basically the three of us.
So, and if you're listening to it years down the line, well, it was probably a thing.
Probably a thing.
It was a thing, yes.
Just like there's also amongst this massive giant 12-week crossover there are Hero Collector, who of course do those excellent little Doctor Who figurines, not quite dolly scale for Warren's purposes, but that doesn't stop you from getting them. Yeah, but there are a couple of crossover ones with different Daleks, including the big giant bulbous head Dalek from something or other. So yeah, they're releasing a Dalek box set.
Well, it's probably from
Time Lord that are coming out as part of the Time Lord Victorious.
Based more or less on the one in Remembrance, I would guess.
It's labeled as Dalek Emperor, and for size it says 1/21 scale. So that's like what's the typical action dolly, like 1/12th, 1/14th, maybe.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, that's not Remembrance. It's one from
dolly size. I'm not a mathematicician.
Yeah. So those are coming out. So I don't know if you'll get them or not, Warren. You have a lot of Daleks.
I've got
You got a lot of Daleks, right? Like actual proper Dolly Daleks?
5 of them and Davros. And a Mechanoid, the inheritor of the Dalek legacy.
That's true, yeah.
I'm flashing back to, like, during all the lockdown tweet-along things, there's pictures from, I think it was Russell T. Davis. Was it RTD or Moffat? One of them had, like, some massive Dalek action figure collection.
I think it was RTD. I think it's RTD who had it. Yeah, who has a full size.
I'd like to do a show.
I think actually Moffat does too.
Shout out to Jake Simpson, fan of the show and friend of the show, who also has a full size Dalek and an insane amount of Daleks himself.
That's true. Yeah, I've seen pictures of it. That's right. Did he built it? Didn't he? Jake built it?
Don't tell his wife.
Oh, that's cheating. I withdraw my praise.
Business's office.
Oh. So it's okay.
It's a tax write-off.
It's a tax write-off.
I'm not defending or deriding. I'm just saying he has a Dalek.
It performs a function. It like serves tea or something, or it's like a Bluetooth speaker or something.
It is his servant.
Yeah, exactly. So Doctor Who magazine came out, issue number 554, with a whole bunch of articles about continuity and how it doesn't quite add up. Like a whole bunch about the Doctor, about the Cybermen, about the Daleks, about the show itself. If you are here to nitpick about continuity, this is the issue for you, folks. As well as a whole bunch of other stuff, including the Fact of Fiction. I quite enjoy the Fact of Fictions because it's basically like production notes in an article. Alan Barnes writes most of them. He does one on the Crotons. So you've always wanted to know about the Crotons. Face it, folks. You have.
I like their Crotons.
You do? The episode or the aliens?
The story, yeah.
Oh, okay. I do. I like all.
I hadn't noticed your mindless enthusiasm for Doctor
Who. Yeah.
Despite 10 minutes ago saying how much you dislike Ghostlight.
Well, it's not proper Doctor Who.
I don't like because it
therefore he's still correct.
It didn't. Yeah. Doctor Who that disappoints me is the worst kind because it
has been dismissed forthwith.
Down.
Go on, be gonst.
Yeah, it's like
run off into the threshing mill.
There's literally like it's like a handful of Doctor Who stories over the entire history of the series. Oh, that just let me down.
One of which may or may not be David Tennant's.
It might be. It might
or
be.
The Rings of Akaton.
Or that, yeah, just let me down. I just feel like I don't hate the story as much as I hate that I hate the story. You know what I mean? Like that's what makes me upset.
You don't want to dislike it, so you're disappointed in yourself because you're disappointed in the story.
In a weird way, that's the reverse of my hating things because other people like it.
Yeah, that's right. What is that like? Anti contrarianism?
Oh, mine is just straight up contrarian.
I don't know. Well, I know yours is, yeah, but I'm trying to determine what my
frustrated optimism. I don't know.
Issues are. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Are you still subscribing to Doctor Who magazine, the digital one?
I am indeed. Yes.
Okay.
It's important to. I mean, all magazines are having issues. Lots of businesses are having issues with pandemics these days, and so yeah, this magazine's been going on since 1979, and I quite enjoy it still. And it's great that it arrives on the day of release.
Yeah. Because when I bought my current iPad 3 years ago. I subscribed for a year then, and I didn't find I was reading it. Yeah,
the same problem. Although it was on my phone, so it was a bit more of a problem. But
yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'll let the subscription lapse, and then I keep thinking maybe it's time to renew.
It's like $50 a year.
That's a good deal. Don't get me wrong.
Nothing to get.
It was my own. That's on me and Chris.
More
Chris, really.
I tell you what, it's in many ways to me, it's like. I love having it as like research. Like I just have it like, that was in a Doctor Who magazine like a few weeks ago or something, and I will download it and read it for research. Like oftentimes I'll sort of skim through it when it's released and go, oh, that looks interesting. Oh, that looks good. I like that bit there, and read a bit there. And then like later on, often like before conventions, I'll sort of like think, oh, did they do an interview thing or a feature on it? And that's when I'll sort of really dive into it. So it's a handy resource. So we're glad to have it. And we're lucky to have it. So, yeah, support Doctor Who magazine if you can. Also coming up, speaking of reading stuff, there's not much known about this yet, but Amazon has .co.uk in the UK has listed a new Dalek book coming in February of next year. It doesn't even have a title, but Mike Tucker is involved, as is Gavin Rymel, who is part of the Dalek 6388 Terry Nation Army crew, who were on this podcast a few weeks or months ago talking about their amazing Dalek YouTube series, which is phenomenal. And Richard Atkinson is also has contributed to this book. So just by talent alone, this book will be something to behold, I think, when it comes out for £15.
Yeah. It just says Dalek Mark III Time Machine, not Travel Machine. Combat Training Guide.
Yeah, but it is a draft, a watermark. That's the thing with Amazon. They'll throw up stuff that's like, we have some details, so that's enough. We'll put it up.
I hope they fix that to Mark III Travel Machine.
It should be
I'm
Travel
sure they
Machine. Maybe that's why it's a draft. Maybe that's why it's a draft.
Yeah.
You know. Coming to BritBox in the UK is something that we've actually had not on BritBox, but widely available here in North America. But The Prisoner, Sapphire and Steel, UFO, Space 1999, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, and Randall and Hopkirk Deceased, and some more shows are coming. Basically, the ITV and non-BBC shows are hitting BritBox in the UK on August 20th. Apart from UFO, and I think the Randall and Hopkirk and maybe the Captain Scarlet, all these are on Shout Factory TV here in North America, which is a free streaming service.
Get on there.
Yeah.
Their first Show Factory must be the ones putting out the DVD releases.
I believe they are. Yeah, I know they certainly put out the Sapphire and Steel one a while back, and they have all those. But yeah, The Prisoner is freely available on Shout Factory TV, as is Sapphire and Steel, as is Space 1999. They're all there. Thunderbirds also there. So, yeah.
Warren makes
you bet I do.
One of the ones that you didn't mention specifically, it's kind of at the end of the article in the show notes, is the Stephen Mangan, Dirk Gently from BBC 4.
Yeah.
From a few years ago, which was quite enjoyable. It's for those who might have seen the Elijah Wood BBC America Dirk Gently thing. It's obviously there's a certain tone to the Dirk Gently stuff, but it's quite different.
Here's my thing. I've heard the BBC America one is good.
It seemed to go under the radar.
The BBC America one is good, but having said that, the BBC,
it's fun.
The BBC
it's really
proper
fun.
or whatever, the British one, is Max Landis free, and that's an important distinction.
It is Max Landis free.
Because he is annoying,
Good
and
point.
many other things besides that.
Yeah. I remember the original Dirk Gently coming out. I never watched.
I'm reading the first book and going, "This is just a Shadow ripoff," and being annoyed.
Which it is.
Which,
to be fair,
yeah.
So there you go. August 20th in the UK. You can get that, or now on shoutfactory.tv. So some convention news, some virtual convention news, of course. Chicago TARDIS, which of course takes place Thanksgiving weekend in the United States, is going virtual, officially virtual. So there will be a lineup of panels. If you already purchased a ticket, you will have perks on this virtual one. There will be a small but special guest list, as they say, for this year's virtual event. So perhaps smaller than what was going to be for 2020. But all of the guests who have been invited to the 2020 event initially are going to be there for 2021
and people's
next
tickets.
year. Assuming we're in a place where we can actually have conventions again. Because let's face it, I was optimistic in April about something happening, and here we are, like in late July, and like.
That's what I read. If you bought a ticket, it gets rolled over to 2021, right? I think. Yeah. It
does indeed. Yep. So yep. And if you have a hotel at the Western Chicago Lombard, there will be automatic. They're going to cancel your room. So
pour one out for CanCon, which I have to say is a really good con I went to last year, but it is not happening this year for the same reason in Ottawa.
That's in Ottawa, right?
Just not worth it.
Yeah.
We have immunocompromised people coming to this thing, so we don't want to put them in any risk. And fair enough. Also, I don't want to go to a plane if I don't have to. So,
no. 2020 is the year of virtual, everyone. So here you go. Just like Big Finish Day. Big Finish Day was initially postponed, and then, but they've announced that the virtual Big Finish Day will happen next Saturday, August 1st, 2020, on the Big Finish YouTube channel with a whole host of actors, 6 hours worth of content. With actors, musicians, and writers, including Jamie Anderson, Mark Bonner, writer John Dorney, Carol Ann Ford, Louise Jameson, Alex Kingston, Joe Kramer, Paul McGann, Doctor Who himself, Paul McGann, Neve McIntosh, Blair Mowat, Dan Starkey, Catherine Stewart, and Nicola Walker are all going to be there, as I assume Nick Briggs, of course, and Jason Haig-Ellery, because they're always there too. So yeah, that'll be fun. I'm glad they're still managing to get together and promote the Big Finish brand and entertain all you folks, because the Big Finish days have been very, very popular over the years. Mm-hmm. So good on them. I mentioned Doctor Who magazine. I was looking through it, and they mentioned this comic in it. And look at this. There is a Kickstarter for said comic. It is a new comic miniseries about Lytton, written by Eric
does he own the rights to
who, of course, is the creator of the character. He must, yeah.
Because he wrote Resurrection and, kind of wrote it there, maybe, sort of, Paula Moore. Yeah.
Paula Moore was 100% behind writing that, I think you'll find. There's no Eric Sayward in there at all, even though it has all the hallmarks of a Eric Sayward script. It's not Eric Sayward.
Anyway, the point is,
Paula Moore.
Lytton,
shooting guns
film
and stuff.
noir comic series as well, so you know it's going to be nice and dirty and gritty and
Sayward
violent.
Yeah. Yes. As we've been recording this is on, remember, Thursday afternoon as we're recording this, the Kickstarter has long since surpassed their initial goal for the limited run. It's gone over $3,000 now. For their initial goal was $11.57 Canadian. I say this is probably different when wherever you are in the world. So that's cool. That is cool that this is coming along. You were mentioning it in passing before we hit record there, Warren, that if Maurice Coburn hadn't died tragically young, I imagine that we'd be we'd have a few Big Finish spin-offs. Yeah. Because he was so good. Maurice Coburn, of course, famous for Gangsters as well.
Oh, can you imagine Gangsters be a Big Finish? Why not? Why not have Gangsters? Come on.
Get Philip Martin, get back to write that thing. We could do it. That'd be awesome. Anyway, if you want to contribute to the Kickstarter, still links in the show notes at radiofreescaro.com, and you can do just that. All right. So yes, as we mentioned towards the top of this thing, the Game of Rassilon is a Doctor Who podcast featuring the Doctor Who role-playing game. And I had a quick chat with one Dan Peck about the podcast and what their plans are for the near future. The Game of Rassilon is a Doctor Who role-playing game podcast. I don't know if there's any other podcast like this out there in the vast swathes of Doctor Who podcasts, but I'm happy to talk about it today with one of its contributors, being Dan Peck. Hello, Dan.
Hello.
So
great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. I've run into you twice at Gallifrey One. I think it's both have been in the dealer's room now that I think about it, because that's just a good place to run into people as you run into people at Gallifrey
It is a
One.
It is a place that I spend a lot of time and money at, so that does sound about right.
Yeah. You live in LA, so you don't have to worry about like luggage size or weight restrictions. So I imagine.
Oh, no. I just load up my car. It's
right.
It's like great. I can make a couple trips if I need to.
Yeah, like I have to think. Okay, do I need this sonic screwdriver, and how much will I have to expand my luggage to fit it in?
And how do I explain it to customs?
That always. Let me tell you, always a problem explaining the sonic screwdriver to customs. So anyway, tell us about the Game of Rassilon for those who don't know.
It started at Galley as a live show. Ben Padden, who is our game master, thought it would be fun to do a improv role-playing game session using the Cubicle 7 role-playing game. It's a bit of a plug for them, but their system is great. It's a 2D6 system. So we did it as a live show at Galley for a couple of years, and we did it where everyone who was playing had two character sheets, a companion and a doctor, and we would roll a die live in front of the audience to determine who was playing the doctor. So we never knew necessarily who was going to be the doctor until showtime, which was super fun, especially considering the first year it was me. But we had a great time doing it, and Ben ran it at a couple of other conventions. So then they got together with Michael Nixon, and the two of them decided, let's do this as a podcast. And ever since then, the two of them have been our brilliant leaders constructing this narrative that is. We design it so that it is friendly to Whovians, new and old. You actually don't have to know anything about Doctor Who to come in. And it was designed that way. My character, I play Travis, who's a companion, is a librarian from 1998 who basically got kidnapped and met the Doctor out in the universe. So, especially, he didn't know anything about Doctor Who, despite being very pop culture savvy. It doesn't exist inside their world. But we lean way more on the narrative aspect of it, that we're telling a Doctor Who story, than we do the dice rolls. The dice rolls are there to tell us if we succeed or fail. And truth be told, the failures are often way more exciting than the successes. But we set out to tell original Doctor Who stories with an original Doctor, played by the phenomenal Riley Silverman. She is my Doctor at this point. We were a little past the halfway point for season 2, but the latest serial introduced a brand new companion, played by Kate Leigh. And it was great because Ben and Michael tend to keep a lot from me and from Riley. So we thought that Kate was going to be a guest star for the episode, and she ended up being our brand new companion, and she's fantastic. She's a wonderful, wonderful scene partner, especially considering our characters met when we were set up on a date by what ends up being a, murderous, because it's Doctor Who, dating app. So, Kate and I had to improv a date, and when I listen to the audio, I feel that I owe a whole lot of women an apology for ever having gone on dates with me, because, oh my God.
It was like an experience.
Yeah. But it was great. But it was great. Like, having Kate on board, she's just a natural fit. And so now we have the Doctor and 2 companions, and her serial is Swipe Right. But if you, for some reason, don't feel like going back to the beginning of our series, if you start with the serial right before that one, which was called Evolve or Die, it's sort of a good jumping on point if you want to dip your toes in and see if this is the show for you. It begins the second half of our current season,
right?
But I recommend going back to the beginning, because we had some just bananas, off the wall scenes and moments in season 1, and it's been so much fun. Like, I cannot tell you. As a player, it's a blast. I then listen to it when it comes out every other week, and it gives me chills sometimes. Like, our goal is to produce our own sort of Doctor Who episodes, and our phenomenal editors, and we have some original music in it. It's just our goal is to embody the feel of Doctor Who, and I know I'm speaking from a biased place, but I think we succeed.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, you base this on the actual role playing game. So, like, my spouse Erica is part of another podcast called Total Party Kill, which they play Dungeons and Dragons online. But it is kind of they are kind of adhering to the storyline that's in that game, I think, perhaps a little more closely. She might tell me different. So how are you using the Doctor Who role playing game sort of as a springboard to sort of like create, like, is the game as malleable as that allows you to sort of do all this kind of crazy improv and vast exploration of characters and relationships, like you're saying?
Oh, it absolutely does. The way the game works is there are attributes and there are skills, and then 2 six-sided dice. And so it's really only you're ever adding 4 numbers together, but it's really flexible, because it's not so much like, what's your dexterity? It's not stuff like that. It's stuff like resolve or ingenuity. It's more, it can be a little more mental than physical. There are definitely physical stuff, but there are also these wonderful, wonderful game-breaking things called story points, which we can spend to either make one of our failures into a success to a limited degree, or we can spend a whole bunch of them and do just real crazy things as long as we can justify it narratively. And so far, we've had a Pokemon battle to determine the fate of the universe. We've had superpowers come into existence, but it makes sense logically. Like, I don't want to give away how in case you do go back and listen to the whole thing. But it's so good. Like it allows when Ben and Michael come up with a scenario, and obviously we have an ongoing story. A lot of the times, though, it's just here's the situation, and they have a couple of characters at the ready, but there's no way that we can go off the rails because there are no rails to begin with. In a way, it's not like a dungeon crawl where you're you have to get from point A to point B and fight monsters along the way. The system actually rewards you if you don't fight. Anytime you get into a combat or whatever scenario, it's called a scene. And the turn order goes that if you are talking, you go first. If you are doing something, if you're running, you go second. If you're doing something, you go third. And if you're a fighter, you go last. So any sort of combat action can essentially be resolved by talking beforehand, which is, you can't talk to some of the monsters. We haven't encountered a Dalek proper yet, but I don't think talking to a Dalek is going to work. That's going to be a lot more running rolls.
But still, that is the whole, like, that's how the Doctor Who works, basically.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
that order,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think one of us took damage in a traditional sense until somewhere in the second season.
Golly. Because you've been running all the time. Because that's what Doctor Who does. They run from things.
Like we've had characters get hurt because, like, when they're trying to cross a gangplank and, like, suddenly it slips and they don't make a good enough reaction roll, like that kind of stuff, like, Doctor Who peril.
Right. Yeah. So you started at sort of like in panels at Gallifrey One, and then it became a podcast, and that you recorded in person at a gaming cafe or something in LA.
Yeah, there's a game store called Geeky Teas and Games that is a game shop, but they also have private rooms that you can rent for your own gaming. And we are essentially on display because there's these big glass windows that look into the room. We do put up blankets sometimes, not only so it's not distracting, but to dampen the sound a little bit. But we had been recording in person until the pandemic forced us to record remotely, and we were a little worried about that because we kind of play off of one another. It doesn't. You don't hear it when you listen to the podcast, obviously, but like we can give each other looks and sort of like, oh, you're thinking what I'm thinking. So we were a little worried when we recorded our first remote serial, which was Evolve or Die, but it did end up, it took us a little bit to get our bearings on it, but it ended up being, we'd prefer to do it in person, but it ended up working out really well.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that, because like what was the adjustment like? Do you like, I don't know if Verity does this anymore, but I know when they first started during the pandemic, I think just as a comfort blanket, they wanted to see each other. They didn't usually record the video on, and you never saw the video when the podcast came out, but they just like seeing each other as they talk. Do you actually have the video on when you're recording Game of Rassilon when you're over Skype, just so you can sort of have that sort of like visual interaction, or does that make it even more weird given the fact that you're looking at each other from across the internet?
So we did start with the cameras on because we thought we would need those little visual cues for one another. It was a little awkward because we were constantly looking at each other, but it ended up being more of a bandwidth issue, so we had to stop using the cameras.
Right.
But it's good though because we've now recorded 4 full serials this way. So we kind of know that we're not in the most optimal recording setup, but we've adapted to it because we need to, because we still want to put out episodes. We still love recording, and we're in the middle of a season. We gotta deliver to our fans.
Right. How I back to Total Party Kill. I know that because they play once a week, I think, and there's occasional like one-offs here and there. But I think literally, because Erica also edits these, I think they're almost a year in advance of like recording to when these things are actually coming. Like they're that far ahead, or at least that backed up. Do you record these like far in advance? Just keep like recording them and then just sort of dole them out in episodic chunks, or how do you do it that way?
Yeah, we started recording a few months before the season debuted because our episodes are about an hour and 10 minutes up to an hour and 40. And what we do is we will record an entire serial in one day, whether it was in person or over Skype now. We'll take a break in between, but we'll kind of set aside a chunk of a whole day to record 2 or 3 sometimes episodes. And because there is a lot of editing that goes into it, just to cut out the ums and when we have to figure out rules, things like that, we want to allow our editor plenty of time. Plus then also that allows him to put in, more music, more sound effects, more of that, more polish to it. So we're 2 full serials ahead recording wise. I think the one we just recorded about a week ago is going to be in September, I think, if my timing works out. But we have been bi-weekly release, just like clockwork. Every 2 weeks, new episode. You can better believe that my Instagram and Twitter and Facebook feed is just going to be me promoting the episodes every other Wednesday.
Right. Yeah, I know that some people, like a lot of people who watch Total Party Kill, and this might be the same for Game of Rassilon too, is just like, in lieu of them playing a game themselves or having a group of friends that would allow them to play that game, they find that listening to a podcast of an actual play podcast, as I believe they're termed, is like almost like therapeutic and just comforting. Like it's like being around friends playing a game together and listening how they're just enjoying it and having fun with it. And I don't know what is the listener reaction been to Game of Rassilon and how they sort of interacted with it.
I mean, like, we don't have the biggest fan base. I'm not going to kid ourselves. We do have a good fan base, but we're not like hundreds of thousands or anything like that. But our fans have been fantastic, truthfully. We have one fan who has done a whole lot of fan art, and like my heart melts with pride every time. It's just like, I can't believe someone's making fan art for what we are doing. And we try to be pretty interactive with our fans on Twitter. If they say they love the show, we'll be like, it's not just a like, we'll put a comment. It's like, thank you so much. It's just, we love it. I mean, we don't make any money for this. We're just doing this for the love of the game. And, especially when we do the live shows at Galley, to do it in front of like 100 people and to hear people laughing and cheering and all that. It's just, it's wonderful. I wish I could listen to it with everyone.
That's the problem with being a podcast host. You can never be a listener as well in the same way, unless you're hearing a playback, but it's never the same thing, is it? When you're listening to a playback of something that happened live. What was it like to sort of like, it started out at Gallifrey One as just a sort of a panel, but sort of like this past year, you actually recorded a podcast that went out as such. So how was it to sort of like, now that you had your feet under your whole group and doing it as a podcast on the panel at the last Gallifrey One? How was that for you?
The Galley panels are always madness. It's herding cats for real, because we always do something a little more extravagant. Like, we don't play as our characters from the podcast. We still stick with the pick a doctor, pick a companion, and we'll roll randomly, but we're always under like time constraints, like an hour and a half. And because we have the crowd in front of us, it fuels us. And we've had some of the craziest Doctor Who moments that you would never see on the show, including the first year we did it at Galley. We had Perry lift K9 straight up over her head so that to keep the weeping angels away, because we realized that K9 never blinks.
True. Very true.
Yeah. And it ended up just being a miraculous, strength roll for Perry to hoist K9 over her head as if like holding a boombox at the end of Say Anything. But it worked, and the dice allowed it, and Ben was gracious enough as game master to allow it to happen, and it's become a little bit of one of our galley shining moments. But yeah, it's always off the rails, and we had a regeneration this year because Chris Jones was on the panel, but he had to get to another panel, so he was I don't remember if he was the second or the third Doctor, but we had to have him die, and then our friend took over, but he was not the next Doctor. He was just him playing the Doctor, and it was, we just completely broke canon more than anything that the show has ever done.
Until Timeless Children, perhaps, but yeah.
Even more so.
Yeah. It can be done.
It's like when we do the galley shows, it's complete chaos, but it's always funny. When we record for the podcast, it's more organized chaos. It's refined chaos.
Right. It's a perfect description of it. So new episodes every 2 weeks. Where can people find the podcast on the web and on the socials, as you say?
Yeah, we're on all of the major podcast providers: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. There's more. If you want to see the complete list, www.thegameofrassilon.com. We are also on Twitter and Instagram, primarily at Rassilon Pod. And and we're super excited for you all to hear the rest of the season, especially because the addition of Kate, she has been wonderful, and it's provided a nice point of view for anyone who wants to join the TARDIS with us. That was cute.
It was. Awesome. Dan Peck, Game of Rassilon, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dan. It was nice to talk to Dan for longer than like the 4.5 minutes that I might see him in the dealer's room at Gallifrey 1.
I got to spend a little more time with him at Galley this past year than in prior galleys and such. So it was nice.
Oh, you lucky swan.
I didn't this year. I did last year. I went
fellow.
out for lunch with him and a fellow Family Guy writer, a friend of his, and I pitched the McDonald's Cinematic Universe as a gag on the show. I don't watch Family Guy, but I told him, if you want it, take it, man. I don't care. So if the McDonald's Cinematic Universe shows up on Family Guy, and I really doubt it will, you know who came up with it.
Okay.
Probably somebody else in that room, independent of me.
I do watch Family Guy, but I often just wait for the new series to drop on Netflix, and then I watch it all there.
Family Guy Detectives, let me know if the McDonald's Cinematic Universe shows up. I'm pretty sure it won't.
I'll keep an eye out for it.
Keep
an eye out for it.
I'm trying to envision that, and I'm coming up with some wacky stuff.
Well, I'd just like to say, friend of the show, Sammy
fun.
Kelch, came out with a collage before Avengers Infinity War, where she featured Grimace with an oven mitt as Thanos, and then somebody cosplayed at some convention as Grimace with an oven mitt. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, that is awesome. Oh, I love you, fans. You're great when you're great. And on that note, it's time to watch some Doctor Who. So won't you join us after the very short break? We dip back to 1989, the Rick Astley years, to watch the first 2 episodes of the Sylvester McCoy classic, Battlefield. Yes, it's our favorite time on this podcast, doing Sylvester McCoy era commentaries with Warren in the house. Always a good time. Battlefield, the first story of season 26, the final season of classic Doctor Who. We are going to watch the first 2 episodes today, and then the next 2 episodes next time. So I hope you've got your legally purchased Blu-rays. I could say that because there are Blu-rays, of course, out for this. DVDs, VHS, extended. We will not be doing the extended VHS version. We will not be doing the special edition version, the movie-length version. We'll be doing the original episodic version of Battlefield. So I hope you've got them all ready, because here we go, everyone. Battlefield Part 1. Press play in 3, 2, 1, play.
I have to turn down my volume there.
Yeah, I do that sometimes too. I prepped that beforehand as we.
I did too. I caught myself.
Well done, us. Yeah. So we're already off to a rip-roaring start here to watch the lowest rated season premiere episode ever. 3.1 million people tuned in to watch this episode on original broadcast.
Well, it's because the show became too political.
That's probably what it was. I went up to 3.9 the next week. Like, that's almost like a 25% increase in audience if you want to look at the glass half full. I'm quite a fan of Battlefield. I know you don't like anything when it comes to Sylvester McCoy, Warren, so I don't...
I like Remembrance of the Daleks, and I grudgingly admit Curse of Fenric isn't bad.
So when is the last time you watched this, then?
Oh, God. Years and years. No, wait. I edited together Who Against Guns or Who Against...
Who for Schools. Who for Schools.
But it was mostly one episode, and it was the interminable helicopter ride we're going to come up with later.
The interminable helicopter ride.
I do like seeing the break here.
Right?
Do you like domestic break? Like we kind of got a sort of a glimpse in Modern Undead, and then now we have like full on with Doris domesticated buying, foliage.
I would like to see a young Kate Lethbridge Stewart running around at like 2 years old or whatever.
That'd be kind of fun. Yeah, she got to be
Well,
somewhere.
how old does she be? She's in her mid-40s in the show.
Well, this
She'd be probably
here,
in her 20s or 30s here.
Yeah, she'd be out and about probably. Maybe off at some science school or something. Well, this takes place a few years in Ace's future. Hey, there's a Canadian right there. Robert Jezik, everyone. That's a Canadian in Doctor Who. Playing the Polish Zbigniew. I like this shot coming up. I like this by Mike Kerrigan. Boom. Panned
That
down.
is good. Yeah. And I also like that there is a new Brigadier.
And that it's the female Lister.
It is the female
That's
Lister.
true.
I think this story is kind of like, Doctor Who is never really progressive by choice. It's almost by mistake. And in retrospect, like having a black lady head of unit is like, I think they were probably speaking a lot more than they were at the time. It seems to be like it. Like if this was like now, like it's like holy crap, that's awesome. Now it almost seems like, hey, yeah, sure, why not? But I don't think they realized how progressive they were being.
Well, I mean, having an international flair to unit in general is good and not something we had in the past.
This is as probably as close to what a unit would be like. I want to go back and freeze frame that because there was some writing above that speaker. Before I go on with that, we have to acknowledge the passing of the Doctor Who TARDIS set. You're looking at a cyclorama right now because the set itself has been junked. They're already moving it, like you can see the ripples in the roundels there.
In a way, it's a return to the original show.
It is a little bit, yeah. Photographic blow up at the very end. The console still exists, but this is the last time we see it.
Why is it so dark? Because we don't have a set. That's
we don't have a set. I mean, it was written in the script to be dark, but they, like, God, why would they junk it? Why would they say, yeah, we don't need this anymore. Let's get rid of it. It's so
weird. Where does
weird.
this fall into Andrew Cartmell's master plan to topple Thatcher?
Yes, 100%. I'm wondering if, like, was it a BBC edict, like, we're not making Doctor Who anymore? But they clearly were, because the last story that was in production was the, see right above the speaker, there's some writing on the console, was The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, which, of course, they didn't make in the studio. They had to bring all the sets out to that tent in an BBC Elstree parking lot. And I'm wondering if, like, paperwork or something, okay, strike all the sets, get rid of them, because we're not in the BBC studio. And maybe that's how the TARDIS set got junked. I'm curious. I haven't read anything about that, opposed to why it got junked. But What I said about Unit. Blue berets. They're wearing blue berets in this, which is what they would normally wear in real life. And now, of course, in the modern series, it's Unified Intelligence Task Force, whatever the hell they're called.
Wasn't it Universal? Didn't that cause a big hullabaloo?
It's Unified. Yeah, Unified Intelligence Task Force. Because the UN complained. Don't you dare make us look like a relatively competent organization. I feel like this story as a whole is how, like, if this story didn't exist, I feel like this is the way that the modern series would have brought back Unit, because there's just enough like touches to the past with Bessie later on, and with the brig, and talking about the Autons and Daleks and all that stuff. Like it just seems to follow on from the glory days.
Well,
quite well.
The discussion later on of just like the arsenal of weapons covers off half the Unit history.
Speaking of the Autons, one of my D&D friends, he said, I tried to watch Doctor Who once. It was with these mannequins trying to kill people, and I thought it was really stupid, and I stopped. I'm like, oh, you're referring to the new one.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've gotten that with the new one. Oh, well.
Well, we don't want you anyway.
No, I said to each their own.
Yeah, don't want them.
I do adore Angela.
Bruce.
Oh, why can't I think of her last name?
Angela Bruce.
Bruce, thank you. I like her portrayal of Bambera. Just like she's just the like she's all business and just so curt and to the point and all that kind of stuff. And then you kind of see her soften as the story goes along. Just she does a really, really strong performance.
One thing I'll give for this, as opposed to New Who, is where they'd make a big hullabaloo about Unit and the Doctor and, gather him up with the troops or whatever. Here they just pass by him and don't even know who the hell he is.
Yeah.
They just completely ignore him.
Typical Unit.
Oh, McCoy.
Is that good exasperation, or?
I don't know.
Oh.
Because he did a lot of like just the shtick in his first series, and he should be over that by now.
I mean, no Doctor is over that. Every Doctor does some shtick.
James Ellis.
Capaldi did shtick.
Yeah. I love that little detail. I never noticed. I actually did watch this last night with the info subtitles on, just as prep. I never noticed how that truck that they just walked past, there's like a sign, a Carberry
Trust sign is run over.
Yeah, they ran over it. They never focused on it. I love that. I've never noticed that before.
I love how annoyed she is by pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just think like a physicist.
Some bang up security guys.
They're doing things. They're running around. They're making it look like they're busy.
They have nuclear missiles on a truck. I think there'd be more security than this. I've seen more security at the Junos.
The Junos. And that's the online Junos, too.
Oh, God.
Junos being the Canadian Entertainment Awards here, for those of you not knowing what those are.
Like, many Canadians don't know what they are.
Yeah. Named after. So
warmed my heart to have a Liz Shaw reference there.
These outfits vexed Ben Aronovich because they were supposed to be like space knights, and the costume designer said, "So knights, perfect. Let's make them all knights." And so
here's a gun.
Yeah, we'll give him a gun. It'll be a regular knight, but with a gun. This will come into play at the end of this episode, but.
Yes, I think a surly teenager is just what this place needs. Mm.
I know what those references are.
Well, that makes you a better person.
This was, in my personal viewing experience, my first Unit story.
Really?
I never saw Pertwee until after I was done with McCoy.
Well, you didn't have Web of Fear or Invasion back in the day.
Certainly not. No. Yeah, I saw.
So it would have been this rather than like Android Invasion.
Yeah, my first was Robot.
I never saw early Tom Baker until like basically early Tom Baker as a whole like in sequence, was the last Doctor Who that I saw, which is fascinating to think because a lot of people started with that, like you, Warren.
With robots, so that was, I guess, technically a unit story.
Yeah, because when I started watching Doctor Who in, like, I'd say 85, it was like Graham Williams era, and then it's sort of, I probably looped around, and then they changed the broadcast schedule, and it was at a time when I couldn't watch it, and we didn't have a VCR yet, and then by the time we got a VCR and it looped around again, it was back to the Graham Williams era again, so...
I'd like to say that this telephone is Matt Smith calling you.
Oh, God.
Cordless telephones were not as widely available back in 1989, apparently.
That's the wandering around the house kind.
Yeah, with the giant antenna. Yeah, because that wouldn't work out here. You kidding me? A few years in the future. Cordless telephones and kings.
So what is
Care
it?
if it was the Queen herself.
Yeah.
60s, late 50s here?
What's that now?
How old is, what's his name? Nicholas Courtney here.
Nicholas I don't know how old he
His actual
was.
age? 50s
Probably
something?
50s or 60? No, he lived to be
in
what?
Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah, he lived to be 82. This is probably his 50s.
He was born in 1929, so he would have been 59 here.
Yeah.
This is a really bad role-playing game. Get this LARPer out of here.
LARPer. They're actually driving in these shots. The camera mounted on the hood, which is rare, actually. I don't think they've had a... Well, there's a whole...
I'm sure their budget wouldn't extend to like a lowrider or what are the low lifter, whatever they call them.
Yeah, well, on the Blu-ray and probably on the original DVD actually too, there's like a massive amount. Like they had so many takes of the brig driving them, and they get attacked, and it's like smoke in the car. I think they did like 25 or 30 takes trying to get it right, and it's all Nicholas Courtney driving, and he said, "Okay, back it up," and so he backs it up. It's like, so it's them driving.
Gorkrow. It's a very metal name.
I still don't know what, like, there's Xiao Yang. She just like gets out of her car and just like, I'm just showing up at the hotel, I guess. Like, like, it's almost like, do we know her at all? Like, what's she doing here? She just sort of like happens to walk in to give Ace a lady friend again for another episode. Read into that what you will.
Well, haven't many people read into that?
Oh, yes.
I am not qualified to comment.
I
don't remember the whole background of it.
I only know British beer price and indeed inflation through beer prices as laid out in Battlefield and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That apparently,
so you know peanut prices because it cushions the blow. Yeah,
well, in Hitchhiker's Guide, Ford Prefect buys three pints for $5s. And it's an amazing amount. So you go from a 5 a cent, and he's like, wow, he's giving me £5 for these 3 pints as if that's like a ton of money. And Ace is like apoplectic that a pint of beer costs £5. Or
lemonade in the water.
Lemonade in the water for $5.
Unless they're also paying for the Shoyang's vodka.
That could be. She's coming in there. I'm getting ripped.
What is it, like it's 11 in the morning?
Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Come on.
That's true.
It's 11 in the morning as we record this, Warren. You're probably drinking so you can watch McCoy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a good idea, but no, I'm not. I'm drinking coffee.
I feel with all the throwbacks, Warren, this episode is trying to hook you specifically.
Why me? I'm not a huge throwback guy.
Well, I know, but it's trying to pander.
It gives you something to latch onto.
Yeah.
It's something. It's anything. This part here is fine. It's just later when it gets to the Arthurian nonsense. It just goes... and this is peak Smug McCoy, and I'm not a fan of Smug McCoy.
I would say, like, Ghostlight and Fenric are way more Smug McCoy than this.
Fenric at least backs it up with an alright story. Ghostlight backs it up with nothing you hear.
Yeah.
Except, a novelization that you have to read to make it worth, blah, 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 etc. Who cares?
Well, it expands on it. Same with Fenric, though. The
Look at these nerds.
Novelization for Fenric goes way beyond the televised story. Any version of it.
It is my kingdom now, Glurm.
But
magic missile.
The Arthurian stuff is, I don't know, I ate that up as a kid or a teenager watching this.
I still don't know anything about Arthurian legend. Or real. Is it real? I only know basically Monty Python. And that was years ago.
I think it's up in the air. Like, could be.
Really?
I mean, just like the twist on the Arthurian legend that, like, in a future incarnation that we have yet to see, the Doctor was Merlin. And Arthur is from like a parallel Earth and or an
I would like to
alien.
say that Merlin is a failure. Just to tie all these things together. Okay, I can definitely see why people are reading into this.
There's June Bland sitting there, daughter of Robin Bland, of course.
Of course. Fresh off her appearance in Earthshock.
Yes, waiting around for 7 years to be in Doctor Who again.
Yep.
I didn't realize that she wore different contact lenses for when she was blind to when she was not.
Oh?
Yeah, apparently, if you look closely. I suppose they are kind of faded a little bit, but... Waiting for a girl like you.
You know, Doctor Who's kind of like Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote. After a while, you're like, okay, there's so many murders happening, and you're the one here.
That's a good point.
So is the Doctor causing all this stuff by showing up?
No.
No.
All of this would have happened
resolved.
anyway.
Brigadier, I got my bookcase, I got my little suitcase with my gun.
He's got a...
That reminded me of our Sergeant at Arms when that guy broke into the Parliament building. He just did the exact same thing. Got out his bookcase, his gun, popped a dude, left.
That's a ways back. Golly. That was in the Harper era.
She does resemble Kate Lethbridge Stewart.
She does a wee bit, doesn't she?
I'm sure that wasn't planned, but...
Oh, yes,
like,
it was.
after the fact.
I think that in 15 years' time, they're going to bring back Doctor Who. Maybe 20 years' time, they're going to bring back Unit, and probably with the Briggs daughter. So we should probably cast...
But first, in 5 years, they're going to make the non-canonical show that brings Kate Stewart into it all.
Yeah, that's true. Now,
Meanwhile,
Kate...
we're watching a spark fight the likes of which I've never seen.
Okay, so the spark thing, that is one thing that I think is a strike against this story for sure. It would have been nice if, I don't know if it's a budget thing or a time thing or a desire or a preference thing, but they could have had something in there like laser bolts or whatever.
I don't disagree with you. Having said that, I love the Sunmakers, and it has the worst guns in possibly the entire series. Like where they just shoot smoke.
Possibly, although Guns and Face of Evil, never did like those.
It's kind of something actually, because I remember watching, I've said about this on the podcast before, what I hate so much about Silver Nemesis is that during the making of, which I saw before I saw Silver Nemesis, is Dave Chapman is on location there watching the footage and going, it's going to have like a flying photon pulse is what the Cyberman guns are like. It gets transmitted. There's nothing. There's literally no visual effects at all, or video effects for the Cyberman guns at all. And it's just a spark gun here for this too. And I'm wondering if we should put like a flying laser pulse. Let's just not. Doctor Who doing on the cheap. You know what here? James Ellis here playing Wormsley. He looks there like Rob Sherman does today. He gave me a Rob Sherman vibe with the beard because Rob.
I was going to say he looks like a lot of British fans. So yeah.
I gotta. If I
Rob's
picture him in a
gone
red,
gray,
if I
or
picture him
white.
in a red shirt, then maybe.
Yeah, he hasn't worn a red shirt in a while, but
there's some nice photography in here. Like, look at that. Like, whoever scouted that location, like that just looks gorgeous.
there's some good locations.
How does a
in
brigadier
this.
afford this giant estate?
He siphoned money off the top.
Yeah,
Apparently.
when he goes to Geneva, it's not to go to unit conferences. It's to
Check his Swiss bank accounts.
exactly.
He hoard out Benton and Yates.
Wow, we did need to go there.
They did
But
not
here we
need
are.
to go there. See, that of course is going to set up his eventual demise as originally scripted. I'm glad he didn't die.
I know we're not at that point in the story yet, and you just said you're glad he didn't die, but are you? Like, what do you think the impact might have been had he died?
Well, we wouldn't. Well, Big Finish would have, like, what do we do? So here,
because like if you think of the context of this, ends up being the last series of last season of Doctor Who.
I know what you mean.
We've got the lowest rated season opener ever, as you had said. What amount of the audience is out there in the first place, and what percentage of that would even care?
Yeah. Before I deal with that, see this here. This is where he was supposed to wear like a space outfit. I didn't realize until I watched this last night that what happens in this confusingly directed scene is the explosion happens, and then he So what he's doing there is apparently he's got like a jetpack thing in his outfit.
So
and that's why he flies.
He's launching himself rather than the explosion launching him.
Yes, even though
I always read it as the explosion sent him flying.
Yeah, but that is also like doesn't make sense because he's like, oh, the explosion, whoa, blew.
But
like,
the delay in the timing
is what makes it weird.
Yeah,
everything's so weird about it. But apparently, as directed, it's the outfit has a jetpack on it and he flies off, and that's why it does that. But the fact that costume gave him a medieval knight's outfit completely renders that useless.
Is there an explanation as to why he wasn't able to control his flight then and landed in the barn?
No.
Went through the roof?
Listen, there are a few things as I watched this very closely last night that are remnants. Like there, is it an android? That line right there, because the original reference is the fact that he's supposed to be wearing a space outfit. Why would Ace think that a guy in medieval knight armor is an android? That was left in. Maybe because the actual script could have been edited better, perhaps by a script editor. I'm just saying.
Hey, are you criticizing Battlefield?
I'm criticizing the script editing of season 26, which I think had a lot of ideas that should have been curtailed, and this is why Ghost Light and Curse of Fenric are basically 9 episodes long between the two.
And of course, Battlefield was meant to be a 3-parter.
Yeah.
It was extended to be a 4-parter.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of stuff that, there's lots of little references that survive in draft 1 that should be excised by draft 12. But
I still remember, what was it? This came out in 89, so it would have been 90 or 91, something like that. Seeing things from British news reports. Marcus Gilbert here, who plays Anselin, apparently appeared completely naked in an advert for something on British TV a year or two after this.
Well,
and caused a lot of controversy.
For your if you will.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just making stuff up.
Wow, how do you get naked for an ad? That's
Well, he probably took his clothes off.
Well, that'll do it.
You beat me to it.
That will do it. What do you say? How do you get on TV naked in a? Interesting. I imagine there was probably
it was probably a post watershed thing, but I don't know. I don't remember.
If they have post watershed
details.
ads. I don't know if ads get much money from post. We want you to
air even on this side of the Atlantic, there's post watershed advertising and whatnot.
Yeah, it's for those.
Is there what
ridiculous sex lines that?
Yeah.
Probably
one of my personal favorites of that was one where they had it was basically erectile dysfunction pills, but they couldn't mention that, so it had 4. I'm going to say older, attractive women hinting mad at what this product was, but not actually saying. And I was like, wow, this is actually a real interesting exercise in theater when you get right down to it.
Man, that flew by.
It did, didn't it?
Jean Marsh, we saw her for all 5 seconds.
Are you talking about the rock that flew by or the episode itself?
The episode
Both.
itself.
Yeah. Look at that. We're already a quarter of the way through.
Thank God.
Yeah. I like this. I like the story. I don't care what people say.
Like I said, the first episode's fine. It's just when it gets very smug and stupid.
I don't know if it gets that smug.
Mm-mm. I think it gets way smugger.
Smugger. Dave Besco. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's the guy that was responsible for the lack of laser beams from the guns, basically. So I should be blaming Dave Chapman.
It's a war crime, and he should be tried as such.
Well, it's obviously not Dave Chapman's fault because he promised it, and then it never happened in Silver Nemesis. And this guy is a different guy, and I don't know if he promised it here, but it never happened. So I'm thinking the BBC is just we are slowly picking away at this show. We are axing your TARDIS set. We are taking away your video effects. Good luck. We tried to cancel you once. It did go well, and now we're going to just
two things. When you said, you know what I don't like about Silver Nemesis, I was like, Silver Nemesis? Like the entirety of it? Yeah. And also, I can't help when you talk about this to think of that picture of Michael Grade with Russell T. Davies and Stephen Moffat giving the stink eye, which is
so great.
Glorious picture.
It's so great, yeah.
And I got to give Grade credit for doing it.
That's true. Time heals, time washes. What's the line from Time Lash? The only decent.
Time and Tide melt the snowman.
Yes, exactly that. Oh, what the hell? Who cares? Let's watch episode 2. Episode 2 of the Battlefield Storm over Avalion. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, play. So the Brigadier dying. I mean, in retrospect, I guess we don't really see him apart from his aged appearance in Sarah Jane Adventures. Yes.
Yeah.
But
he was supposed to be in the wedding of Sarah Jane or whatever the title that one was.
But he couldn't, and he's in the other one. There is they shot 3 different endings, or they had 3 different endings in mind. Essentially, they shot them. One of which was the Brigadier dying or something, and I think one of the lines was to the extent of like, you know, it's sad that he's gone. I can always go back to a time when he was alive, perhaps, and I suppose we can always do that as fans too, and the Doctor can as well. But it just felt more comforting, especially with Nicholas Courtney still like being very much in the public eye. Like, you know, he was the host of 30 Years in the TARDIS in '93, and he was like a fixture on convention circuits. Like, you know, Gallifrey 1 starts up a year after this, and he was there a lot, and it just felt like the Brigadier was still alive and Nicholas Courtney was still alive, and we just sort of had those two in tandem, and I would just felt like like how can the Brigadier come back to the show if he's dead?
He was in whatchamacallit Yeti Story.
That's right, he was in that thing, wasn't he? Yeah.
Downturn, downtime, time
Downton
down.
Abbey.
Whatever.
Downton Abbey, I think it was.
That's the one.
Not canon, might I add.
Yeah.
Downturn.
But in retrospect, it would be a sad end, though, because, like, oh, yeah, by the way, we killed off the Brigadier, and now the show's ending. It just felt like it was just like finalizing everything, you know?
Yeah, which, I mean, isn't really a bad thing necessarily. Lots of shows do that. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, I mean, he's a soldier. He goes out in battle, and in what I always felt was a pretty good, you know, battle story. Mm-hmm. So if the character had stayed dead or had been dead, I think that would have been a suitable end for him.
Well, I know. I liked the Matt Smith tribute. And I also liked all the Capaldi stuff up until the Cyber Brig. I'm not a fan of the Cyber Brig at all. I think it's dumb. I think it kind of cheapens the whole thing, frankly.
It's a bit silly.
It does cheapen it, yeah.
He's already dead at that point, so really.
Well, yeah, he's resurrected Cyber Brig at that point.
We've got the Brig's puppet body in a Cyberman. I'm like, I get where you're going with this, and I don't know, points for trying, I suppose, but I feel a little icky about it, honestly.
Honor the memory.
Which is why I think one of my favorite, because it just kind of hammers it home. It's like, well, no, you don't have total control over space and time there, Doctor Who.
And the interesting thing is that phone call, he's in basically a extended care at that point, and he dies in bed. That is a reference to this. You're supposed to die in bed, the Doctor says in episode 4. So they actually, that's quite ingenious. So this says Moffat actually decided, no, it's canon. He died in bed.
Moffat's a fan.
Doctor knows.
One thing I've always appreciated or liked about the story, and I don't know what your wife's thoughts are on it, Stephen, but I would suspect she's probably in the same camp as I am, but just the differing diction used by Mordred and Anselin and Morgana, like it's the different way that they speak. Mm-hmm. It always stood out, and I always liked that.
That is not an easy thing to do, too, by the way. It's like you can really screw that up with fantasy writing.
Yeah. I don't know when the last time Erica watched this. I know that she has a withering disdain, I think, just kind of like Warren does for the McCoy era. But
not good. I knew there was a reason we got along.
Yeah.
That and only that, Erica. I'll have you know.
It's they're on the ground, by the way. They're not in a flying helicopter. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that, but
good man, is he? What's the pilot's name? Is that Husek or is that somebody else?
No, Husek's later on. That is Lavelle.
This stuff is interminable.
I had such a crush on Lavelle when I was a kid watching.
Did you really? Oh.
Yeah.
She's played by she's dead now, sadly. There's a lot of people dead in this. She died at age 61. The guy who plays Husak, you mentioned that, he died 3 years after this, like in his 30s. Very sad. Marcus Gilbert is still alive, so is Angela Bruce. They're both at Gallifrey 1 a couple years ago.
They were.
They?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. This scene. Yeah, you tell. This guy apparently auditioned to be, along with Marcus Gilbert, auditioned to be the 8th Doctor back in the day.
For the TV movie?
For the TV movie, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you can see that they sort of had a look in mind, young, attractive British male as their new lead role. Before they cast
young. How old was McGann?
35.
That young, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I've said a million times before, that dude's gotten better looking as he's gotten older, and he wasn't starting from nothing to begin with.
No.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous how handsome that dude is.
When he looks into your eyes, man, I tell you. Just listen.
Even when we were doing the live show, like with him, where I'm like, man, this dude is a good looking old dude.
Just a handsome
How's
fella.
he do it?
Yeah. And that voice, too. I mean, that's...
yeah, true.
It's a good visual effect there. I didn't even see the string. I'm serious. This is a hell of a
Okay, 2 lights and some smoke. Very effective. Super cheap.
Yeah. Cheap.
This looks like a music video.
Yeah. Well, there's some
like
visual
a specific
effects.
time.
Video effects.
Yep.
This guy was apparently in Z cars for decades.
Pretty much everybody was in
everybody?
Z cars, from what I can tell. Yeah, it was like the casualty of its time.
Yes.
Or the bill.
Or the bill, yeah.
I remember I had a British person in my class at high school, and so I started peppering them with questions about all these shows that were in Doctor Who Celebration, including Z cars. They had no idea what I was talking about.
I'm sure it was all before their time.
Yeah.
Especially if they're like your age, yeah.
We probably called it Z cars.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the helicopter scene goes on forever.
Are you like paused or something? Like the
no, I lost track of where I think I hit a button wrong, so I might be way off.
Okay. Good.
Morgan's got a sword on his head right now.
It doesn't really change.
Just like
I do. We keep popping back into the music video set here, so I kind of know what you're talking about.
All right.
I hit a button and it skipped, and I'm hoping valiantly to figure out where the hell you guys are, but it doesn't really matter.
Brigadier is just about to open his eyes now.
There he did. Yeah.
Okay, then I'm a little bit ahead.
Speaking of like music video sets, the spaceship containing Excalibur. That's a great music video.
This laugh goes on, and it's like, okay, can we do it again? Bigger. Okay, I nearly got a hernia. No, bigger. Got to laugh. Bigger. Make it bigger. I literally was like, you have to serve it from both sides because I burst a blood vessel in my eye. Bigger. You got to laugh. Michael Kerrigan storming down from the gallery. I told you what is that? A laugh? Laugh, for crying out loud.
Michael Kerrigan, who will never be in the miniscope.
No, he did direct an episode or 2 of Sarah Jane Adventures, though.
Did he? He came back for that?
Did. He came back for that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Keep laughing. Like no one else is laughing with you. Like it's
all right. I think I'm ahead. I've paused on Jean Marsh showing up. So
well done.
You are ahead. Yeah.
Well done, Warren. Just like the olden days.
She's just about to show up. In a moment.
Yeah, quite a ways away actually. So we'll just comment while you wait for this.
Sounds good. I just hit the wrong thing and it skipped ahead. I'm sorry.
Well,
8.5 minutes in, just about, Warren. Just for whatever that's worth.
Nothing I can do about it.
Nope. You can watch McCoy overact and like an aging rocker go down to his knees with a guitar in his hand.
Yeah, waiting for a roadie to spin him around like Nigel Tufnell here. I watched that the other night for the first time in ages. I have basically memorized that movie. This is
Spinal Tap?
Yeah.
That's why I can't watch A New Hope, because I basically memorized it.
I liked it so much that I said, the DVD I own of this is 20 years old.
Morgan just showed up, Warren.
There you go.
Here we go. I'm back on track-ish.
And so I bought the Blu-ray for Spinal Tap because I needed it on Blu-ray, so I have it.
Okay, here's a question that your odd breadth of knowledge may know, Stephen. Is this Gene Marsh's real hair, or is it a wig or extensions?
Oh, it's a wig. Of course it's a wig.
It is a wig? Okay.
Yeah. Everyone's wearing wigs. That guy
So by
there,
odd, you mean
wig.
buffontology?
Yeah, that's a wig.
There we go. We got to get him business cards, Warren. Stephen Shapansky, buffontologist.
There you go. You slag off my lack of basic motor skills, but I can come up with a term like buffontology.
Yeah, Anselin's wearing a wig. Probably Mordred here's wearing a wig.
Well, that's why they only had Sparks. They could only afford wigs. You get wigs or you get lasers. You don't get both.
There's lots of wigs. There's a lot more wigs in TV than I thought there would be, to be honest. Because maybe that's just a good job people who make wigs, because...
It's good lighting on Morgaine, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Gene Marsh, like, just chews the scenery, but in such a good way.
She does great. She's Gene Marsh. She can do that.
So phenomenal.
There's only so many actors that can sort of like do something like this and do it believably.
Sacha Dhawan.
Even then, though, Gene Marsh. Like, she made a thing about, like, she played that witch in Willow, and like shortly before this.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of like doing a bit, basically.
To a lot of people, Willow is the first exposure to her, despite her doing creating Upstairs, Downstairs.
Yeah. And having a vast career before that.
Oh, yeah. Massive.
How adorable. Oh, it's a shame that we were spared the business meeting in London between the break. We should have seen that, damn it. We should have seen that. If this is a Sandbaggers, we would have seen all of that. It would just be that, actually.
If Battlefield's a Sandbaggers.
Yeah. It would just be the Brigadier really going in there and seeing Neil Burnside, and off he goes.
I don't think... I'm trying to think of what the meeting between the Brigadier and Neil Burnside would be. I don't know if I want to see that.
No, it would be very different. Very strange. Sophie Aldred's jump here. She fell the first 8 times they tried that. She didn't, but jumping around. All this jumping around in Doctor Who. Back in my day, companions walked.
No, back in your day, companions tripped.
They did, actually, a lot.
They very much did a lot.
I thought the Gaze would do that.
Dig hole here. Says it in my handwriting.
How clever. Because he's Merlin, you see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Big Finish launched into that. There's probably a whole subsection of...
I like how the Nitro 9 prop actually rotates.
Yeah,
like, there's a gear in there to spin the top of it.
It was made by Mike Tucker for the previous story, actually. He didn't even work on this story, but he did he made that for that. That's the last time because this was made second. The broadcast and production orders were all mixed up when it comes to season 26. Because originally they were supposed to see there's going to be a big unveiling for McCoy's new coat in Fenric when he takes off his duffel coat and he's wearing a dark coat underneath. Everyone's supposed to go, whoa, he's wearing a different coat, as if he has a new hat. I don't think there's a Czechoslovakian.
I'm drunk, sir.
Czechoslovakian is not a language. Czech is a
language. But she can still speak it when she's drunk.
Slovak is a language, yeah. There are still people, like I listen to like sports podcasts, and it's like some people still say Czechoslovakia. It's been 25 years, more. It's been a country. You still say West Germany? I mean, they basically formed at the same time.
Well, to be fair, I still say CBC News Network, and it hasn't been that for 20 years.
Oh, it used to be News World. It used to be News World.
News World. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
News World. I refuse to say that because it sounds bad.
Your branding will not work on me.
No, it will not.
Damn it. Well, I still can't get used to interleague play in the Major League Baseball, so I feel like I'm okay with accepting change, but not baseball. Baseball seems to be set in stone, and that's where it needs to be.
Well, pretty soon baseball will be set in a hospital.
Yeah. Very sad.
Wow, that's depressing.
Yeah, this is really, boy, everything during any podcast commentary you make during a global pandemic will just immediately devolve. She knows what she's doing. Jean Marsh knows what she's doing. The way she sort of just looks down and sort of summons her evil lightning energy.
She is damn good at this, I gotta say.
Perfect casting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That second shot of the helicopter was just the first shot reversed. Well done. Didn't notice that for years until I watched it last night. I was fooled. Yes. Why not?
Down is not the problem.
Always like that line.
She gets so many good lines.
She does. You are right, though.
And I love the camera work here. The handheld but not steady cam.
Yeah.
Just the wobbliness.
I don't
Who's
think
right about
about
bad camera work.
the helicopter taking forever.
It does take forever.
So basically, it's the middle two episodes were originally one-ish, like, more or less, not in the original 3-part version that Aronovich wrote, and that basically every single other season 26 writer is trying to convince him that he did a good job on the
And that helicopter shell is very, very clearly not the same helicopter.
Yeah,
earlier.
I was laughing at the fact that Nicholas Courtney's hat falls off. Oh, geez, my bald spot. This is a great little combo. What a shame that she's dead soon.
Wow, that's a little morbid.
Yeah, well, she is. She gets killed in this episode.
She gets killed as a vessel for information.
Yeah, they just have a nice little. First off, there's a lady in unit. There's two. We've seen two ladies in unit, and indeed in the story, it's funny actually.
Well, nowadays it's mostly ladies in unit.
Well,
not much to unit, but it's mostly female run. So
Peter Wormsley was originally written as a woman too, but John Nathan Turner thought, we've got enough women in this. Let's make it a man.
Well, that's great.
That great? Like, come on, we've got like 4 women in this.
That's quite the
crown.
What's the word I'm looking for here? No, well, yeah, but also her skirt is very going out to the club mid 1995.
Oh, like gold. Well, it is the future after all.
I suppose
the Brigadier is straight out of 1978. This is, Unit 78. So like, what would that be? Colony in space.
Or is it?
Just a little bit. It's a little bit glam, isn't it? Yeah.
Just looking up the actress who played Lavelle, Dorota Kwiatkowska.
Yeah.
She's Polish.
Her married name was Ray, which she used here.
Yep.
Died a few years ago in Australia, I believe.
2018 in Adelaide, yes.
Yeah, 2018, yeah. That's not from memory. That's literally me reading that. But
it's Brett Vion.
And that's the great thing, isn't it? Yeah. Her brother and sister, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Once upon a time, in a fictitious story.
Mm-hmm. Is there still like a unit jail cell, I wonder, with Morgaine just sitting there stewing? One day I'll plan my revenge. Or is she just a withered husk of who she was now that she found out that
she'd presumably be somewhere in London Tower, wouldn't she? Or
Probably, yeah. She's probably there. Oh, that would have been an amazing cameo if, like, in the Power 3 or something, they go through and there's a prison cell. There's like a, Jean Marsh today, sitting in a prison cell, thinking, "Well, they did it. They kept her locked up. Credit to them."
Very much still with us, Jean Marsh is.
Yeah,
or just call it the Morgaine wing or something.
She has a whole wing, like Hannibal Lecter has his own wing in the prison.
Yeah, it's basically all the medieval bad guys.
Yeah,
like Steyre's in there and.
Steyre.
Or whichever one. I can't remember what the hell the first one. Which is the
Lynx?
Which Sontaran we talk? Thank you, Lynx.
Yeah.
Lynx was killed though.
Yeah, we're talking about the rare Doctor Who villains that maybe Count Grendel found his way in there. Who knows?
God. With a Terran Woodbeast.
Terran Woodbeast. Well, he was the agent. The Terran Woodbeast was the agent.
Strax in there.
Down.
He became a criminal mastermind in the 1910s.
Yeah. Still think Drax would be a good Big Finish spinoff, but it's very much a tarp in the background, I think. I can see it fold. Ooh.
Open up. It's me.
Open sesame. Boom, boom. I do like this this meeting. You know, they're two warriors, and so there's a mutual respect. Kind of like.
Well, I mean, she even goes as far as to say or talk about like the fact that the planet in general has respect for the war dead. And
yeah, like how dare you?
Kind of stuff.
Yeah, you did not honor the war dead before you came. Yeah, she's like chews out her son.
Yeah.
How you enjoying this, Warren? How you holding out there?
I'm not.
Okay. Is it your dislike of the character of the Doctor, of McCoy's performance? Is it the
both? Both,
okay.
definitely.
Okay.
This is fine so far. This is just kind of straightforward Doctor Who adventure so far.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. And I do kind of like the fact that here they're doing timey-wimey stuff they don't do until later, which at the time I just found annoying. But smug Doctor is just my least favorite kind.
Well, I like that he doesn't know. I mean, I remember when I haven't thought of Remembrance that highly because he knows everything. Like he's smug.
True,
like,
he gets a free pass in that one. I don't know why.
Well, and I always kind of found that annoying. Whereas here, he's like, oh, I guess I'm like he's kind of faking it until he makes it. Essentially,
he's also like he's making deductions and guesses and figuring things out as things go along. Mm-hmm. But he's also basically batting 1,000. Like he doesn't make any wrong guesses.
Very good point.
Which kind of makes it a little too easy.
Yeah, the only sort of hint that he doesn't know what's going on when he says, you know, now leave before I unleash a terrible something on you. You know, he's clearly making it up as he's going along. But
this
you're right.
is a cool set too. I'll give it that. I think basically it's the first year of McCoy just left such a bad taste in my mouth for the last few decades.
Right.
I won't cut anything else any slack.
I think you and a lot of
half
people
on
were.
me.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people think that.
Yeah. I mean, just like a lot of people wouldn't give Colin Baker a second chance based on seeing one story.
Well, and Capaldi. A lot of people got turned
Perry.
off of Capaldi's first season. And
That's
Capaldi's
true.
a much different Doctor in the second and third or whatever. And
yeah. Launching a Doctor is a tricky thing. You know, like Peter Davison's
well,
first
unless it's the
season
TV movie, in which case you spend half the story not launching the Doctor.
Yeah.
Or Christmas Invasion, where you do the same.
Sure. Yeah.
When you think about it, that is a remarkable. I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe you're trying to like relying on the show itself as opposed to a new Doctor. Like,
well, I mean, who knocked it out of the gate? Tom Baker for sure. I think Jodie did.
I think Davison did too.
Smith, guaranteed.
Smith, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Pertwee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pertwee's. That's fair.
Troughton's a little too hard
really
to tell.
Troughton, you can't,
Yeah,
because it's just.
And we might have to carry on this conversation in the next episode, but it's fascinating. You know, when you, when you launch a new show with a new Doctor, either you can be. Mostly, actually, they've been like, are they going to like them? Maybe we should surround them with like Daleks and Unit and like familiar things, so that we can ease the transition a little bit. Or sometimes they go bold, like they did with McCoy and Colin Baker. You know, it's like, hey, yeah, we're killing him all. We get his first episode at the beginning of this, at the end of this one season. What do you think of that?
That was a dumb idea.
The fact that they never thought that, like, okay, we'll follow up one of the greatest stories of all time with something that looks like the Twin Dilemma,
with hot garbage,
and that'll be what remains in the viewer's eyes for 9 months until his next season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is, I mean, yeah, it's still weird to think that, you know, I think of the Mighty 200 poll from 2009, whatever it was, in Doctor Who magazine. Number 1, Androzani. Number 200, Twin Dilemma.
It is one of
their neighboring stories.
It's one of the smuggest decisions ever. Yeah.
And it's not. That's an absolutely accurate thing, because Twin Dilemma is garbage. Even if they ran it midway through a season, it would still be garbage.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't done the twin
Can you
dilemma
imagine
yet,
starting
have we?
the season with that? What about that?
Yeah.
That would be real deep down.
I don't think we've done the twin dilemma commentary. I feel like I want to save things for that, but
I love the book. Because it was the only comic maker I had at the time.
right.
The Twin Dilemma commentary has not yet been done. No.
Oh.
Neither has Attack of the Cybermen. So.
Well, we have that to look forward to, and indeed the last 2 episodes of Battlefield as well, which will be on the next episode of this here podcast, Doctor Who Radio Free Skaro. So join us next week for that, won't you? Until then, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
One in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro, subscribe to us on iTunes, and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.